Dude, how many years has it been since we've seen each other?
It's been, did we see each other at a conference? Was that you're leading the music for it?
Yeah, but that was like maybe 2007, 2008, maybe.
Yeah,
That was a long time ago.
it was. And I was impressed. Let me give you a compliment. Can
Okay.
I give you a compliment?
Sure. I'll take
The
all
way
you
the
got.
way you led worship is like one of my peeves with worship is people sing too high. The guy, we're not Chris Tomlin at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. Can you bring it down? Not Barry White. I'm not a BG. Can you put somewhere in the middle? And what you did was, because you're a tenor, right?
Yeah, oh,
So
yeah.
you would sing the first verse to kind of show everybody this is a song, and then you would drop it, and it was gold.
Oh, I
And
did
it's
that?
like you did that,
Oh,
and
okay.
I always remembered it. And I always remember that if I ever talk to Andy again, I'm gonna
You've been
I'm just
holding
gonna
on to
let
that
him
one.
know.
You've
I'm
just
just
been
gonna let him
holding
know
on to
that
that memory. Yeah.
that was gold. It was
Well,
awesome. So well done.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you very much. Well, my wife was asking me this morning if I was doing any interviews today. And I said, yeah, I'm going to be talking to Tim Hawkins. And she immediately just launched into, welcome to McDonald's. We got shakes, fries.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, that takes me back, dude, to when we would do shows together. I mean, way back in the mid 90s, or even,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe earlier than that,
Yeah.
where there was a level that you brought. And again, I had Shonda Pierce on a few episodes ago, and
Right.
we travel with several comedians,
Yeah.
and they're all friends of mine. But there were several of you that just kind of went to this next level where you're just like, yeah, you're gonna be able to do this for a long time. I mean, it
Oh,
was
thank you.
just your, not just the way you know, not just your brilliance with comedy, but you had this extra gear with your guitar and singing
Hmm.
songs and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I just always knew,
Yeah.
man, we're going to be seeing you for a long time. And sure enough, here we are, what, 30
Yeah.
years, 40 years down the road?
Yeah. I mean, when, I did, when I started, it was in clubs, but it was also, I do a club on a Wednesday, and then I do a youth group on a Thursday,
Uh-huh.
and it was all about stage time. So really, in the church, though, at a youth group, take an hour, take as long as you want, just try to survive. And I think I kind of learned guitar and comedy at the same time.
Uh-huh.
So, and then, I was doing multiple age audiences. So music was just a good fit because it just brought an energy that could kind of engage everybody.
Yeah.
So, and plus, I was raised, I listened to, Weird Al and Ray Stevens and these guys. I just always like musical comedy. And, um, that's just what I do. It's
Oh
just,
man.
it's, and once again, I'm kind of a frustrated rock star. You don't see a lot of ginger rock stars. So I had to kind of go the comedy, the comedy route. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
dude,
man. I grew up on Ray Stevens, Guitars In, and
he's a guitar man. Yeah.
the streak, and
Hmm.
I think my wife and I still, about once a week, say, "Don't look, Ethel,"
Don't look at though.
but it
It's
was
too late.
too late. That's right. Oh man, yeah, that's what I grew up on too. My dad had country music playing in the house all the time when I
Yeah.
was a kid, and just I think we missed that era of storytelling probably in
Yeah.
today's music, but that was a real gift. So did you find that doing
Yeah.
music was, you said when early on you'd say they'd give you an hour. I mean, that's that's a little terrifying sometimes. You're like, I got to fill an hour here and keep the
Yeah.
kids engaged.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I would just kind of get tired of hearing myself talk. So it's like it's nice to jump around a bit. Say I'm kind of talked enough. Now let's do some music. And it's cool because, on the road, really one of the biggest issues of being on the road is boredom. So I was, you're sitting on a bus all day. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna let's get better guitar. And I taught myself piano, uh, blues harmonica, just
Yeah.
whatever. And then I could incorporate this in the shows. And I'm just, my philosophy is just get good enough where you can use it. Where I can, I don't need to rip, be crazy with it, but just good enough where I can accompany myself. And it's at a good place right now because especially with keyboards, I can sit and while you're kind of, playing a little bit, you can do jokes and do
Hmm.
stories and create bits.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I used to just be more crazy and sweat a lot and run around. My kids make fun of me. I just do animal noises for for punchlines and and now it's getting to a point where I feel like the show is this is kind of who I really am, just sitting around the living room and just how we make each other laugh
Uh-huh.
naturally, normally. So
Yeah. How far has do you feel like your routine and your personality on stage has progressed since those early days? Are you?
yeah, it's when you first start out, you write what you think is funny. This is
Mhm.
what I think. Like your pages, oh, I'm writing all this material, and it's all junk. It's all not usable. So what I learned was that when I would just tell the truth, people would laugh harder because I realized they related to what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Like if I say my mom used to say this, well, she did used to say that, and I'm like, well, these people are, just snapping, laughing, and elbowing, and all this stuff. I'm like, it I realized that people laugh because they relate, and then people laugh out of relief. Like I'm not the only one out here that thinks this, especially with church stuff. When you
Yeah.
do kind of hand raising, what people's hand raises look like, and the way people pray and things like that. I never got into doctrinal stuff. It was
Well,
always just observational.
yeah. Oh, you have I think one of the gifts for Christian comedians is, can I call you a Christian comedian? Is that okay? Is
Whatever
that
you want,
is that,
whatever. Hey,
I don't know.
yeah.
A,
If you don't
a
laugh, you're going to hell. Yeah, that's what
well,
I.
um, you have man, a whole another level of material, as the church is just ripe for parroting and just finding ridiculous things that have been in the
Mhm,
American traditional church for decades.
mhm.
That it feels like it feels like you have an extra bag of things that you can take on stage with you with that, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, the old church and the new church, especially. I mean, even
Oh yeah,
more so with the new church. I mean,
yeah.
one of the first jokes was non-denominational. I'd say, oh, what are you? You're a Baptist, or you're a Catholic? Oh, you're non-denominational. It's like, well, we don't know what we are. And it's like the joke was, yeah, you're just a Baptist church with a cool website. So I mean, so it's not, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
You remember Andy when they went through, everybody was taking the word Baptist out of the name, and they're like, oh, we're Mosaic now, we're Elevate, we're this or that, and so yeah, and once again, I don't. It was more if it's man-made religiosity, I think that's fair game,
Yeah. Do you get in
and
trouble at all, skewering the church?
I don't. It's like the funnier it is, the more you get away with.
Yeah.
And I think that because I am one, I'm kind of in the family and I love the church. I don't, a lot of comedians, secular comics hate God because they had a bad church experience.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I had a good one and it wasn't perfect and there was goofiness and stuff. But, it was just real folks. And, and I love Jesus. It's just like it was, it's more comes out of a love for the church. And, that's another part about progressing is when you first start out, it's all kind of a competition. You're trying to beat them. You're trying to, and then I realized it was more about serving. I say you don't get laughs, you give laughter, and I'm here to serve, and that changed everything.
Yeah. So I really believe this, and Shonda and I talked about this. Is
Mm-hmm.
that laughter is a gift from God. I think it's one of the great gifts He gives us as a
Yeah,
release, I don't know, just does something to our soul. But I to to get there, I think He also gives a gift of comedy
yeah.
to people, just like He gives a gift of music to someone like me,
Mm-hmm.
and you have that gift as well. But you also have this gift of comedy to make people laugh, to bring joy into their lives, to bring some lightheartedness to their world, if just for an hour
Yeah,
or so. When did you know you were funny? Like, when did you know, okay, I'm funny. Like,
yeah.
I'm good at this.
When I was about 6 years old, I saw a dead bird on the road on the street, and I picked it up and I told it a joke, and it flew away. And I knew, I knew then, I knew then. I don't know. I mean, it's like that's ridiculous. But
Were you a
yeah,
performer, or like, were you just like, did you entertain people when you're
yeah, that was
young
the
and make people laugh?
icebreaker. Yeah, it was the I could mimic and I could do voices, and we would basically recite comedy routines. Like you said, do Ray Stevens songs. We used to lip sync, the Chipmunks at Christmas
Yeah,
time or for the family, and so it's probably the same as when did you know you were a good singer?
yeah,
Is yeah, your family's going to be real nice. Well, Make sometimes. I guess, you do it in your local church and they're like, oh, you should make a record. You should get a record deal.
Hmm.
And you ever see Waiting for Guffman?
Oh yeah, one of
Waiting
my
for
favorite
Guffman is one of
movies.
my favorite movies. And
Yeah,
that
me
that
too.
why I love it is because it's that bubble community. Like they do a little play for the town and they're like, yeah, you should go to Broadway.
Yeah,
We're like, yeah, I think we should. We're really good.
yeah,
So it's that delusion that you have. But when you start performing for strangers who don't have a skin in the game, they don't, you know, they don't have to like you at all. They're at a banquet and all we have some speaker,
yeah.
and it's like, is this guy better than the cheesecake? That was kind of my goal when I would perform at these banquets and stuff, is be more engaging than the food.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to know was where did you start? Like, what were your first opportunities to actually do a comedy set in front of people?
Yeah, it was when I like open mic nights at comedy clubs are like 5 minutes a week,
Hmm.
whereas a lot of the things were these appreciation banquets. You know, what would you call it? I just did one the other day. It was yeah, any kind of a function, whether it be a corporate function, a real estate meeting, anywhere where I could get time in front of, and that could be 10 minutes or 20 minutes, up to 45. So it was just kind of wherever I could find an audience, I would do it.
And those are probably, I'm sure you mentioned like church connections. Those were,
Mhm.
not just the open mic nights, but like church connections where you could go and speak at banquets and stuff like that. I mean, that's how I started
Yeah,
singing. Was my mom took me around to, when I was 10, 11 years old, she would take me around to little banquets and WMU meetings and Bible studies. And she was like the first, I think she invented the soundtrack because she would like go
yeah.
to the lady who played piano down the street and give her some, uh, give her some sheet
No,
music and she would play it and she'd set the recorder up there and
no
record the
way.
tape. And yeah, then she was brilliant. I mean, just to be able to figure that out and like we could go anywhere and she'd take that little portable cassette recorder and just hit play and I would sing along with it. And,
Yeah,
as a 12-year-old, 11, 12-year-old, just bring the house down because
yeah,
here's this kid who could hit all the notes and wasn't afraid to get up there. And I think that's a big
right.
part of it, isn't it? Because,
Yeah,
even if you're, and I think that's why I asked earlier, when did you know that this was probably what you could
yeah.
do for a
Well,
living?
I think it was more desperation. That's kind of sounds like a joke, but
No, I get
it
that.
was it was like just trying to find. I knew I had something. I knew I was good at something. I was just kind of
Uh-huh.
bouncing around from job to job, and it was kind of frustrating. And then comedy was the one thing that I felt like I could drive the bus here. You
Hmm.
know, I could. I'm going to go in front of these 500 people. I know what to do, and at least it's kind of ignorance is bliss when you first start. You don't really know how bad you are. So, um, you just got to grind it out, man. I mean,
Yeah.
and then the audience, like I said, church is a great place to learn comedy because you're not going to get heckled or you're not going to get a beer bottle thrown at you, but they're also
Hopefully not.
not going to but also they're not going to laugh if it's not
Yeah.
funny. It's more
Yeah.
oh, bless your heart, bless your heart,
Yeah.
he's doing his best.
Yeah.
So I learned quick that my audience was my best friend, and um, listen to what is working, and just it's a constant tweaking. It's a
Yeah.
constant, almost like a science project where using silence and using dynamic and not always being full on, but being able to you know um, use that to perform and
Yeah.
to get an idea across,
You
and
mentioned
just
Ray. You
build.
mentioned Ray Stevens and
Hmm.
and Weird Al. Who are your other? Who are who did you get your comic timing from? Like who were you watching to
Yeah,
try and
anybody.
emulate
Yeah,
back in those days?
yeah. Tonight Show, anything like that. A lot of comics on the Tonight Show. I would see my dad and I used to watch all the time, and a lot of from Carlin to Jerry Seinfeld and all these all those guys. I mean, I really like physical comedy.
Uh-huh.
Chris Farley, that kind of stuff. Any kind of physical is funny because that's how we were funny at home.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad would be driving. He'd be driving the car, and he just kind of look back at us and do like he would. He would just do something weird, and it's like it's bizarre, but
Yeah.
it's funny.
Yeah.
And to me, it was the difference between saying funny things and saying things in a funny way, just being
Hmm.
funny.
Yeah.
And so once again, it's just about how do I relate and what's my point of view and trying to figure that out. So it took a
Yeah.
while, right?
What was your first breakthrough routine? Do you remember what it was? Do you remember if there was one like bit that you did that was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is good.
Well, that's kind of where YouTube comes along, where I felt like it was at the right place at the right time. I had kind of grinded away for several years, and I had kind of this, I had material, and then once YouTube came along, that's we didn't know what I still don't know what it is. It's so powerful and big,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I'm clueless about YouTube, honestly.
yeah, yeah. And I figured out real quick that um, that it how should I say it's you just create content and throw it out there. You never know what's gonna hit. And one of the first things was well, my first video that went viral, I didn't even do it. It was some kid that took a song. It was called Kids Rock. It was rock singers singing kids songs.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then this kid made this stick figure animation, just real basic, and it got like a million hits. And we're like,
Wow.
okay, what's this? And it's just YouTube is just promotion. It's all promotion. It's commercials.
Hmm.
And you remember the old days where you'd send out flyers and VHS tapes,
Yep.
demos,
Hmm.
and overnight it was you could reach the world for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the first things that I done was it was called the Homeschool Family. It was a homeschool family video, and the homeschool family, and we shot at my house with my kids and some other kids. We had kids from all over the neighborhood that were our kids in the video, and we just my video guy sent it to a couple of his friends, and like the next day he calls me, he goes, Google homeschool video. This wasn't even on YouTube. This was just um, I forget where it was, but he just posted somewhere to his friends. And then he said, Google homeschool family video the next day. And it's just thousands of just, you got to see this, you
Wow.
know.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was one of the first things, like the homeschool family video. I did one called Cletus Take the Reel, that did well. And it's Andy, it's like that's okay. If you get a million views, that's saying something. That if you're getting 1,000 views, that's good. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you have actual numbers that say people really do like this, and
Yeah.
they don't know me,
Yeah.
right?
I went and watched your Chick-fil-A song again today, and it's like 7.6 million views just on that one link. And
Yeah.
I know there are many more on YouTube, but you get to a certain point where, yeah, you're talking about not understanding how something goes viral. Sometimes it's an accident. You don't even
Oh,
know what you did, and all of a sudden you wake up the next morning, you've got a million views. It's some people can plan it. I've never figured out how to do it, but content is king, right? If it's good
yeah.
and it hits a nerve with someone, people are going to like it and share it and watch it over and over and over
Right. It's a
again.
difference between saying that's a cute video to saying you got to see this.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And I think that Chick-fil-A video, we didn't even post it. Somebody else, ripped it off of the church video thing, and
Yeah.
they posted it.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of gives it a little more credibility because it's just somebody else who just liked it,
Uh-huh.
not me. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you're gonna love this.
Yeah. Well, we
Uh,
did that with Church on the Move that I've been a part of for a long time. We did a thing called Dad Life, and
oh, brilliant.
it was so good, wasn't it? And they did
Is
that in
that the
like,
one with the turtle? What is it? Ornamental turtles,
yep,
crepe
uh-huh,
myrtles.
yeah, that's
That
it.
dude, who the star of that video, that guy's a trip.
Yeah,
He's funny.
that's Chris Munch, and he's had quite a career, just
Oh,
doing different characters and all this kind
oh,
of
he
stuff.
does that youth director, that Assembly
Uh-huh.
of God used. What
Yep.
God hath wrought,
Yeah.
hath
Yeah.
wrought.
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, and he does
brilliant.
Steven Stevens, and just a real gross single dude looking for a date on kind of a Christian mingle kind of thing. It's pretty amazing. But yeah,
Brilliant.
Chris was the guy that and his team that came up with that, and we didn't know, even at with as big as Church on the Move was and what we were doing, we didn't know the power of YouTube. And
Yeah,
somebody else took it, put it
yeah,
on YouTube, and overnight it was 3 or 4 million views, and we're just like, doggone it,
yeah,
we got to figure out how to
yeah.
take advantage of this
And
stuff.
you're like, people ask me all the time, it's like, what goes? How can you go viral? I don't really know.
Yeah.
I think one thing is that there are subcultures on the internet, like Chick-fil-A lovers. So if you do a song called Chick-fil-A and it hits them, then
Hmm.
it's going to spread like wildfire in that community, or the homeschool community. That's going to spread within that community, and then those overlap with other communities, and then you kind of build your own fan base, which is the greatest thing about it, is that I didn't really have to sign with a label.
Hmm.
I could just take a few years and build my own fan base, and then we were able to do ticketed shows as opposed to doing, just come for a love offering or
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who gave you your first start? Like, you talk about, just trying to do every little gig you could
Hmm.
when you were just starting out. And that's the way, I talk to artists all the time, and they're,
Yeah.
or aspiring artists that will hire me to come in and coach them. And I'm like, how many shows you doing? How many gigs you doing? And I'm like, oh, I've got one in 3 weeks. I'm like, that's not the way to do this. You've got to go out and perform everywhere, even if it's at
Yeah.
your local coffee shop. Do something to get in a routine of figuring out who you are and what your
Yeah.
message is. And so I understand that you were probably taking anything and everything in the early days, but then at some
Oh yeah.
point was when we met you. You were in the circuit. I mean, we did
Hmm.
several events with you in some really big venues, and some really big crowds. Who gave you that first shot to really get into those arenas?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, it's say yes so you could say no.
Yeah.
That was the thing. You say yes to everything, and you like you said it perfectly. It's you have to just get in front of people. That's that's how this game is played, kind of. And and you'd have people that call you up, hey, come and do this for free. It's a great exposure gig.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
exposure. It's like, well, people die of exposure, right? That was the joke, you know. And but back in the day, it's like, I'll do whatever. I'll do a lock in at a youth thing. I'll do a real estate meeting in Oklahoma. I don't care. But you just never know. No gig will make you or break you. But there are certain ones that you do, like working with, what was it, the Christian, it was the organization that worked with Sunday school teachers or whatever. It was like a kids ministry
Uh-huh.
organization I performed at, and doing things like that. Or I did a Wesleyan ministers conference one time for
Oh, wow.
1,500 people. And for years, I got shows off that one performance.
Hmm.
So, like those kinds of things, that kind of gets the ball rolling. And once again, when YouTube came along and Facebook, it was just, you're leveraging the world, um, where it's easier to share, it's easier to get in front of people,
Yeah.
and then you're getting more shows, and I'm able to do more material and kind of build and keep and write and get better at this and figure it
Did,
out.
did you have to figure out, because I know we did, but I would think someone that talks for a living has to figure this out a lot quicker. When you go into different denominations, there are different
Hmm.
languages, and there are different
Oh yeah.
taboos, and there are different things you don't, that aren't going to hit or could be offensive.
Yeah.
You do a Baptist church one night or a Baptist event one night, and you do a charismatic Church of God event,
Yeah.
the next night, and a lot of times the two don't commingle. They don't
Yeah.
they don't react the same, or they're
It's like, you guys are probably for him. You're going to a Baptist church and they're clapping on the one and the three.
yeah.
Then you go to AOG, then they're clapping on the two and the four.
Yeah, yeah. Or you're
Yeah.
asking people to lift their hands. They're like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Yeah. What? Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, we got Pentecostal people. We'll talk about speaking in tongues, and you're like,
Yeah.
"You're not going back to our church again." And
That's
did
right.
you? I mean, did you have to
Yeah.
figure out how to navigate that? Well, you said you go into Wesleyan churches and a lot of Baptist
Hmm.
churches and
Yeah.
Pentecostal churches.
Yeah. You do, and what's great about that is you learn flexibility, and you learned what worked everywhere.
Yeah,
Because sometimes when you're at a certain place like a Baptist church, you can go inside baseball and talk a little bit about more of the quirks of that denomination. But I think all churches, I mean, in the 90s, things just kind of started to blend, where it used to be where you go into this church, like, this is a Methodist church. It got to a point in the 90s where you couldn't tell, because
mm,
you're meeting in a revamped Walmart, or you're
yeah,
meeting in these kind of more just generic type of buildings. So even today, the place like the church I go to, I can't tell
Yeah.
what denomination. I don't think it has that much of a bearing on it. But
Yeah, it is. Somebody told me the other day they feel like it may have been, I don't know, maybe one of the guests I had on that's coming on pretty soon that was just talking about they see the church getting tighter than ever before, that
mhm,
those walls are coming down and we understand each other a little bit better and accept each other a little bit more. And you're right, we did see that in the 90s. I think a lot of that was because of the music and because of the
yeah,
entertainment that was so readily
mhm,
available that wasn't 20 years earlier. Because I can remember my parents telling me, "Don't you dare." I grew up Southern Baptist. My
yeah, me
parents were like,
too.
"Don't you dare go to your friend's Pentecostal church," because he was keep inviting me to come as a senior in high school.
Yeah,
And they're like, "Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't know what you're in for, and it's gonna."
they drink real wine over there.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
got ain't no
They
grape
said,
juice there.
yeah, they said they live like hell through the week, and then they celebrate like heaven on Sundays. I'm like, okay, sounds
Yeah.
good to me.
Well, you're going
Because
to celebrate like heaven on Sunday, then go eat a triple cheeseburger and
yeah,
be a glutton and gossip about people. So, it's yeah. And then with once again with the internet, I think it just became a little more, the references started to be the same,
hmm
whether it be movies, TV, music, things like that. Everybody was watching the same thing. Everybody was
yeah,
kind of blending in. So yeah,
yeah,
there's no, it's hard to tell the delineation now between whatever churches it's
yeah.
so.
How have you kept your career going? How have you kept it fresh?
Mhm.
Because man, I look
Yeah.
on your website today, and it's like looking at your looking at your touring
Hmm.
schedule, and sold out, sold out, sold out, sold
Uh-huh.
out, sold out. Do you feel like there's a resurgence of what you? I mean, you've never really gone away.
Yeah.
For him, we went away. We and
Right.
people can talk fondly about us like they will other other artists and comedians, but you've never really gone away. You just continue to be very steady and grown your brand.
Yeah.
Um, like tell me how you've kept yourself fresh and kept that momentum going in your career.
Well, I never wanted to break it. I never wanted to break into the industry. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't want anything to do with, okay, now we're going to do a big Netflix special and you're just going to do these. I don't want that. I really like the shows that I'm doing now. And I try to make an analogy for it. You go to these towns and they got, oh, that barbecue place. It's an old shack that has a line around the, down, and they just start serve ribs until they run out. That's kind of way I would like to be, just really good. And the people who know me and they like what I do really well.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to please everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Um, and just find enough people to that enjoy what I do. And I like going to these little towns, Greenford, Ohio, with 300 people in the town, and you sell 2,000 tickets, and you're like, that's what I want to do.
Wow.
That's the kind of the stuff I just I once again, I never wanted to break it. Oh, you got to be on Letterman and Leno and all this kind of. I really like what I'm doing right now,
Yeah.
and I think it's about what's kept me going is I really like doing the art part of it. I like the creative process. Um, I like having my antenna up for something that I think it might work on stage, and writing it down and doing a new bit or something that works. And that new bit keeps you going. That's it. That you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
song that hits. Like
hmm
when you hit with a song, oh, this is great. We put this in the set list, and it just kind of
Yeah.
it brings new life into it.
Well, I guess that's kind of the point I was trying to make, is that, you do this for long enough and you've been, I mean, again, we've known each other since the,
Yeah,
the mid 90s. So
20 some years.
yeah, it's been a long time that you've had this career. And, everybody that I talk to, everybody that I know, at some point you hit a wall of creativity, or you just kind of run out of gas, or
Yeah,
you go, okay, I did that. Now I want to go do something else. Or
right.
the crowds just stop showing up. I mean, that's a real
Hmm.
thing too, is
Yeah.
that you've run this all the way as far as you're going to take it. And there's, you either play for 20 people a night, or you go, try to find something else to
Yeah.
do. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of what I guess the reason I asked that question is, what's kept you going? Like, and would you feel like you kept getting some fresh wind in your sails
Hmm.
to go to this next level? And
Yeah.
yeah, and clean comedy's big right now. I know you know
Oh,
that,
it's
but
it's it's
I
yeah.
mean
Well,
it's
Nate
huge.
Bargatze, he's the biggest in the country right now.
Yeah.
he's doing the biggest shows, and it's thrilling. It's so great. Leanne Morgan, people like that.
Uh-huh.
Even guys like, the guys coming out of Nashville, and because that's the deal. It's like so many people are being passed over. Like when Jeff Foxworthy came along, he was talking to people, that the flyover
Yeah.
country, that he could speak their language, and there's a ton more of those people, just normal folk.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, there's burnout whenever. I mean, I was doing 100 shows a year for 17, 18 years, and it was really, my family was starting to get the scraps,
Hmm.
and it was not good. It was, people would ask me all the time in interviews, how do you find balance? How do you find balance on the road? And the answer is, I used to try to come up with, and finally I just said, you don't. You really
Yeah.
don't
That's
find
right.
balance.
You don't.
It's not. That's just part of the gig. You have to go to these people and go to these places, and 100 days, dates a year,
Yeah.
but you add in travel, and that's another 50 days.
Yeah.
That's almost half the year. And okay, now that I figured out the how, now why. You figure out, okay, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm doing now, I do about 50 shows a year now. I go, and it's great, and I have the material. I have enough new stuff that it makes it interesting, and um, and it's just, electric bills are still coming. I mean,
Yeah.
I you know we
And
need
you
wood
got,
floors.
it sounds like you got work going on around there today too.
I know. My son's, yeah, we're redoing stuff in the house, and
That's awesome.
yeah, and it's just what I love to do. It's just,
Yeah.
I love doing it, but I have enough time off. It's like, I think part of being a professional is that when you're on the road, that's what you're doing, and when you're
Yeah.
off the road, you're present,
Mm-hmm.
and investing in the people around you, and that's when it becomes fun. Is that I'm giving full attention where it needs to be, and I can pick it up when I need to, and I can drop it, because I used to be Andy. I mean, I was the one writing all the material. I had 13 employees. I had 2 tour buses and all this
Wow.
stuff. And whether I was working or not, these people are getting paid. And
Yeah.
we did a lot of great things. It was amazing. It was
Wait,
amazing, but
you
it's
had
just
two tour buses?
two. Yeah, we had one for the crew, and then we got one for me, like one of the slide outs that was, I could bring,
And bring your family with you?
my family if I needed to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And but it got to the point where it run its course, and I needed a break. But when your schedule's chiseled into stone,
Sure.
you know that's, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
And
Hey, that's a
then,
real
yeah,
thing that people don't understand. And it's the one thing, I will tell you this, Tim, it's the one thing that forced me to start making some decisions about getting off the road was I
yeah,
realized I wasn't in control of my schedule. And you get to a certain point where you've had all the success and you do look, you said it before, this life balance, this work life balance,
yeah,
it doesn't exist,
yeah,
and we try to talk about it like it's attainable, but it's not. It's going to fluctuate. It's going to be what we
mhm,
need to be for our job and for our family at different times, and our families understand this. They want us to put food on the table.
yeah,
They want us to put a roof over their heads. Like my wife is like, yeah, go, I'll
right,
make an
right,
income. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
fine with that. So that's that, but that it is an inherent struggle, especially when you're gone. When you're gone, it's worse because you're absent, like you're
yeah,
completely absent. But it was that, getting, and I've said this on many of my podcasts, is I just remember getting a FedEx package on my doorstep on a Tuesday that would have a tour book in it for the upcoming tour, and there's all the hotels, there's all the venues,
yeah,
there's the flight schedules, there's the bus schedules, here are the people who are going to be on the tour, and I'm just
right,
like, at what point do I get to make these decisions? And
yeah,
it's a double-edged sword because we paid people good money to make those decisions for
yeah,
us, but I'm
yeah,
also like, well, hang on, that's my anniversary.
right,
We're in Seattle on my anniversary. I mean, that's clearly all across country. I can't get back for that. That's my daughter's dance recital. That's
yeah,
my son's, that's my son's graduation. And
yeah,
all of a sudden you're like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. So you know, That's crazy that you would bring that up, because I look at you as someone, that you're you're the you're up there all by yourself on stage,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're still a kind of, I'll use this word in the right way, a slave to the industry and the people that you put around you to
Hmm.
help you achieve your dreams, which is such a conglomeration of all these things that you just, everybody wants, but until you
Hmm.
live it for a couple of decades, you don't really understand
Right.
what that
And
toll
it's
it
not
takes
like
on
a
you and your
product.
family.
Yeah, it's not like a product that you can walk away from. People can sell that product. It's the person. It's you. You have to physically be at these places. And being a dad, I mean, it's really. I don't impart a lot of wisdom to my kids. I think being a dad is mostly
Hmm.
being there, present.
Yeah, you're right.
That's huge for a family.
Yeah.
And it and with the creative part of it, I mean, back in probably 2016, 17, it was starting to uh, things were starting to emerge. I wasn't depressed, but I could feel that I was on the cusp of it, and I was like, okay, I really see why people drink now,
Hmm.
because it's just a lot of it's just something is wrong, and something is you get tired of that lack of balance. You get tired of creating, which you have to create, but you still have to do it. And to be honest with you, I mean, if I wouldn't have stepped out, it's like I'm gonna start taking drugs, man, or do something that'll help me do do this and stop
Yeah.
feeling like this.
Well, and not just because you got to keep going, but you've got a persona and a personality you've got to be on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. I didn't have to go through that because I had three other guys to lean on, and I could have
Yeah.
an off night every now and then, and those guys would cover for me. But you guys that were out there doing solo, I have so much respect for you.
Mhm.
To see how long you did it, and to without a lot of controversy and without
Yeah.
losing your family in the process. It's a
Yeah.
real testament to the strength of your family, the strength of your faith,
Yeah.
and honestly, just you being self-aware that this is something that's going to have to change at some point.
Yeah. And it helped because I never got into the fame thing. I never believed in fame. I never I just, once again, it was desperate. I know how to do this, and I'm going to do it the best that I can. So I think that I was always like, I know I'm a moron. I know I'm a fraud. It's like sometimes before I go on
Yeah,
stage, I'm like, I am a fraud. I don't feel
yeah.
funny at all.
Oh yeah,
I
I
just
know
like,
that
what are these
feeling. Yeah,
people doing? What are these people doing here? But once again, it's um, you're there to serve. This is you get out of your own head. You're like, okay, somebody here drove miles and miles, and they haven't laughed in years, and
hmm,
they're going through it. And it got away from being I'm focused on this one guy who hadn't laughed all night, to the one person here that is losing it, and this is really doing them some good.
yeah,
um yeah, that changed everything. But it's the Bible is so great. I mean, Jesus is so awesome. It's about dying to yourself. And you got to die, man. You can't it, it, it says clearly, you store up treasures in heaven. That's what that means. This stuff is fleeting. Fame and all that stuff, that you're up literally one day and down the next. And um so I just, that helped. I never bought into that. And when I had to step away for a while, I stepped away for about a year and a half. And um, of course, during the pandemic, but that was a story in itself. I mean, we
yeah,
said, okay, we're going to close the doors January 1st, 2020. And we, and then, the world, I told my
yeah.
friends, I say, if I ever go on retirement, the world's going to come to an end. And, and, you know, so, uh, yeah, it, really a lot of it had to do with me. Okay, I need some help.
Mm,
I need help. And I'm a good, you think I'm a good guy, I'm a believer, I'm a pretty smart guy, I know this marriage thing, and I know this, and I needed help.
yeah. What'd you do? So
So
tell me what you did during that 18-month or year and a half
yeah,
long break.
just nothing. I didn't pick up a guitar, I didn't write anything. I call it empty in the cup. It's like
Mm,
you have the creative cup and it's full, and there's nothing
yeah,
else coming. You just got to empty it out and get away from it. And that was awesome. And just to try to rebuild rebuild our life and go to counseling and learn how to communicate in a compassionate way, um, with my wife and with friends, and
Hmm.
you know, just be a normal, just be a normal guy.
Yeah, I've experienced that as well. I did that I actually did it in 2020 as well.
Hmm.
Just took some time off right after Christmas in 2019 and never went back to my full-time job just because
Yeah.
there was an emptying out where I'm kind of like, I wake up in the morning and go, I don't have to do anything today.
Hmm.
And it's very freeing. And if you can string enough of those together, and I know everybody's not as blessed to be able to do that
Right.
in whatever stage of life they're in. But
Hmm.
I talk to worship pastors all the time, just going, you've got to at some point get off the stage. And I love how you talk about emptying the cup, and
Hmm.
then spend time cleaning it out, and then
Yeah.
set it to the side,
Yeah. And
and
it's
then
there. Yeah.
yeah, and it'll always be there. God's not going
Hmm.
to take it away from you. But it's nice to go and go, who am I again? What do I
Yeah.
believe again? Like,
Hmm.
what is my purpose again? And you can't do
Yeah.
that until you quit doing. And
Yeah.
it's the doing that just keeps going. It's a snowball that keeps rolling down the hill and
Well,
never
it's a
stops.
template. It's a template. It's like I would have this my set list, and it's almost like, okay, that joke's there, and now another joke takes its place, and then it's probably the same with music. It's like
Yeah,
it's kind of the same song, or it's kind of the same deal, and then which is great and it's fun, but then you're like, yeah, it just like you said, just it needs
yeah.
to be just kind of stored for a while.
Well, I think we all ask the question, God, are you happy with this? Are you?
Hmm.
Is this, am I going to stand in front of you? I've had this confrontation with God several times. God, am I going to hear, well done, good and faithful servant? I mean, I know I will because of my
Hmm.
relationship with Jesus, and that's settled. But am I going to hear, hey, you did well, son. You did what I
Yeah.
wanted you to do. And again, heaven's much more graceful and forgiving and wonderful than
Hmm.
we could ever imagine. And so there's no fear in that moment. But there in my dreams and here on the earth, man, when I ask that question of God and I
Yeah.
kind of stand, kind of bare before him going, I
Yeah.
hope I'm doing what you've called me to do and what you've set me up to do. And
Yeah.
again, you can only get to that by taking some time and maybe breaking the cycle of what you're in for a while. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited that you got to do that.
Yeah. It's like how much is enough? And the
Yeah.
one of my
Yeah.
favorite verses, it's talks about the eyes of man are never satisfied, and that's just true. You can
Mhm.
just be hammering out this over and over, but it's never enough. It's just like,
Yeah.
what are you doing this for then? It's like, because you're never going to satisfy that, so you got to change your viewpoint, change your mindset, and realize that you have plenty, you have more than enough. And I think when you do that, you start to relax. And I don't, like I said, now I feel like, I don't know if I think the show's better now, but I know I enjoy it more,
Mm.
because the expectations are, and the grind is just not so loud anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's good. Hey, I think
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
have
great.
some fun, and let's just hang out,
Hey,
you
you
know?
got to enjoy it too. That's I think that's part of
Right.
God's gift to us is not making other people laugh or enjoy the music, but we
Hmm.
actually enjoy what we're doing as well. And that's where ultimately God, I think, wants us to be. Is like,
Yeah.
I want you to partake of your offering as well. That's actually in the Old Testament. It's part of the laws of the Israelites bringing their their sacrifices, their livestock and their grains and their oils to the priest to be sacrificed
Hmm.
as their offering, and then they're instructed to go sit down at tables,
Yeah.
and whatever is roasted and whatever is made in there, they're going to be served that. And so God wants you not only to give and to be a part of His kingdom in that way, but
Hmm.
also He wants you to enjoy it. Because if
Yeah.
we do all of this and we get to the end of our lives and go, I didn't really like it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what a
Yeah.
waste, huh? I mean,
Yeah.
we should be the first ones satisfied by what we do. And
Yeah.
let me ask you this: does your family laugh at you? Does your
Um,
wife and kids think you're funny?
we have a lot of we have a lot of fun, and my whole family is. I think everybody's funny,
Yeah,
but yeah, they have they have their own unique approach to comedy. I enjoy watching them. It's free entertainment. Like grandkids now, it's just
oh, how many do you have?
I have two grandkids, two little boys,
How old are they?
and they're 4 and 1.
Oh man,
So
I've got five,
yeah,
and they're all kind of in that age range.
yeah,
And I love
yeah,
making them laugh. I love singing songs with them, and they're just a whole new audience, aren't they?
yeah, it's wonderful. And with my wife, she's like I said, that's my favorite noise is her laugh.
Hmm.
And just all the time, even like last night we're getting ready for bed, and I'm just doing this weird dance and just doing a weird little thing and just acting stupid, and I'll just kind of act like I'm looking off into nowhere. She's, what are you doing? Just any kind of response, because really your family won't, they're not really into courtesy laughter. You got to bring it. You
Yeah,
got to, they'll tell
that's
you if
right.
it's not funny, right? Almost the opposite. It will be funny, but they'll say, you're just, that's a dad joke. No, it's not. Just because I'm your dad doesn't make it a dad joke. That was funny.
How much longer are you going to do this? Do you think this will,
Uh,
do you feel like you'll just part of who you are for the rest of your life?
that's a great, that is, I think about that sometimes. And, I could do it. I'll probably be involved in some capacity for probably the next 10 years. I can see that. Um, and I mean, I do like the idea of film. I've been in a couple independent kind of things, and I really enjoy that. Whether it's writing scripts or just uh, my manager was like, "Hey, would you ever want to do a Hallmark movie?" I'm like, "Absolutely, 100%. I don't care who it is. I'll be the goofy mailman or whatever. I don't care." But we'll
Well,
see.
well, I appreciate you and what you do and the gift God's given you, and again, please take this in the right way. But I
Right.
just laugh when I see you. I mean, I start
Oh,
laughing,
thank
and
you.
I think it's a
Thank you.
spiritual gift, as we talked about my friend Chris Munch at Church on the Move.
Yeah.
When I see him, I just start smiling and laughing. He hasn't done anything, and then
Right.
he sees
Right.
me laughing, and then he kind of does his thing, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that about you. Well,
Well,
thanks
I
for taking
appreciate
time. Yeah.
Sure, and I appreciate your mullet back in the 80s and 90s. And I would just there's Andy, real good, cool. From the time began. Mm-mm-mm. That's my favorite For Him song, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
That's it was good. And it was like, once again, that was, I worked at a Christian bookstore in East Texas. So I got to be, I got to go to GMA every year,
Oh,
for a few
wow.
years.
Yeah, and you get
And
to, yeah.
and saw you guys perform many times, and saw you in Truth, for crying out loud. Gee whiz,
Wow.
that was, yeah.
So Roger Breland said, "Is this true?" He said you got saved at a Truth concert.
I recommitted my life to at a Truth
Okay.
concert, and it was the guy in For Him, was his name. I think you might have been there, because it kept changing. There's always
Right. Right.
um, the other guy, the dark headed guy in
Mark
For Him, was it
Harris.
Mark?
Mark. Yeah.
I think I know he was there, and he prayed with me and everything. But yeah, that was awesome.
Wow. So we really go way back.
Really do. It's your fault, man. It's your fault. You guys are so smooth, dude. That was so good. It's like you just don't hear harmonies anymore, and nobody does. But the music was just wonderful, and
Wow.
yeah,
Well, thanks. Well,
so amazing.
as I look back on those times, I appreciate what God allowed us to do
Mm,
through the music, but also the people that He put in our paths. And
yeah.
again, it's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast is, I've kind of forgotten how many people I know and have had
Mm,
interactions with, and
right.
we've made an imprint on each other's lives, and
Yeah.
it's just fun to say I know him and he's a good guy,
Yeah.
and
Makes a
that
difference.
yeah, it really does, and that's one of the reasons I was excited to have you on, because I'm just like
Yeah,
I know
buddy.
what I'm going to get with you, so yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, rock on. We'll come to a show. Come say hi or something, man.
Yeah,
We'll have a coffee or something.
absolutely,
All right, bro.
yeah, that's great.